All right, let's dive into this whole world of expectations. All the stuff you sent us about it. It's really quite amazing how much our expectations kind of run the show.
Yeah, it really is fascinating how much they color our decisions, how we see things, even how our bodies react to things.
It's way more than just mind over matter kind of stuff. This goes deep.
It does. One of the first things that really struck me was this hot-cold empathy gap.
Oh, yeah, that one was a doozy. So basically, it's saying we're terrible at predicting how we'll act when we're in the thick of it, right?
Exactly. Like right now, we're calm, thinking clearly. But imagine you're suddenly in a super stressful situation. Chances are, logic goes out the window.
Totally. Like that example with teenagers and safe sex.
A classic case.
Yeah.
You can explain the risks till you're blue in the face, but when they're actually in a heated moment,
All that good advice goes poof.
yeah, the hot state takes over.
Yeah.
Emotions are high, consequences. Not so much on their radar.
So the research is saying instead of focusing on what they'll do in those moments, maybe focus on how to avoid those situations altogether.
Right. Give them the skills to recognize those triggers. Walk away before things get too intense.
Makes me think of that ice bucket challenge. You watch videos, but until that ice water hits your skin.
You don't really get it.
Exactly. That's the gap we can't grasp how a hot state will really affect us until we're in it.
And it's not just teenagers. Think about those pregnant women who swear off pain meds during labor.
Oh, yeah, I'm going to be a warrior. Then labor hits.
And suddenly, epidurals look pretty good.
Shows how our predictions about our future selves can be so off when emotions aren't factored in.
It really does.
This also makes me think about procrastination. We all do it. Putting off stuff even though we know we'll feel better once it's done.
Oh, for sure. Like a battle between present self and future self.
And get this. Research says having someone else set our deadlines actually works better than self-imposed ones.
There was this study with students writing papers. Professors set deadlines, higher grades. Self-chosen deadlines, not so much.
It's like that outside pressure takes the burden off our willpower, which, let's be real, can be pretty flimsy.
You can.
Speaking of willpower, remember that self-control credit card idea? Let people set limits on their spending, even penalties for going over them.
Yeah, I remember that. Clever idea.
So why didn't it catch on?
Well, the banks weren't exactly thrilled about helping people spend LSS.
Makes sense. They probably prefer those overdraft fees.
Probably.
Yeah.
But it does highlight how we struggle to manage impulses.
For sure. And then there's that endowment effect. We value stuff more just because we own it.
Like that story about the Duke basketball tickets. Students who won them in a lottery valued them way higher than those who didn't.
Even though they all went through the same hassle to get them.
Right. It's almost irrational, but ownership has this emotional weight to it.
We get attached to our stuff, even if it's junk. And it's not just sentimental value.
No, we overestimate what our stuff is worth.
We focus on what we lose, not what we might gain by letting go.
Happens in negotiations all the time.
Yeah.
People clinging to unrealistic asking prices.
Because they're already feeling the pain of losing something they own.
Exactly.
And this isn't just about stuff, right? We see it with our ideas, too. The more we invest in a belief.
The harder it is to let go.
Even when the facts say otherwise.
It's very true.
Makes me think of the IKEA effect. More effort equals more love for that wonky bookcase.
Absolutely. We've all been there wrestling with those instructions, but then that feeling of accomplishment.
You're like, I built this. It's beautiful.
Yeah, that sense of accomplishment inflates the value, even if the quality is so-so.
Fascinating how our brains work. We create these stories to justify our attachments. But it can be a trap, too, right?
Oh, definitely. We cling to things, stuff, jobs, beliefs that no longer serve us just because we've invested in them.
So letting go, even if it hurts, can lead to freedom.
It can.
Which brings us to another interesting thing. Having too many options can be paralyzing. Paradox of choice.
Remember that door game study? People choosing between doors on a screen, different rewards behind each.
Oh yeah, they'd chase after closing doors, even if it meant missing out on something better.
Exactly.
Like that friend who can't commit to anything. Juggling projects, dating multiple people.
Afraid to miss out.
Yeah, that FOMO. But it comes at a cost.
Right.
Big time. Financially, emotionally. Chasing opportunities, constant comparison.
It's like we've bought into this idea that more choices equals more freedom, more happiness.
But sometimes too much freedom is a burden.
Right. It's like that idea of escape from freedom. Too much choice can be overwhelming.
Exactly. We're so busy keeping options open, we never fully commit to anything.
And without commitment, it's hard to find that deep satisfaction. Like my friend who said their marriage actually improved when they started living apart.
Interesting.
Yeah, the limited time together made them prioritize the relationship.
Sometimes constraints force us to focus.
Right. Constraints can be a good thing. So how do we escape this trap of open doors? Well, we need to recognize that clinging to options has a cost.
We gotta be willing to close some doors, make choices, except we can't have it all.
It might feel scary, but letting go can lead to discovering what truly matters.
Once we ditch the tyranny of choice, we can focus on building the life we actually want.
Precisely.
Speaking of how our perceptions shape things, let's talk about how expectations literally change how we experience stuff.
Okay.
Like that experiment with the beer, some of it was secretly laced with vinegar.
Vinegar in beer.
Yeah, sounds awful, right? But here's the thing. People who didn't know about the vinegar actually preferred it.
Really?
They talked about complex flavors, all that. But the moment they were told about the vinegar,
Their perception changed.
completely, suddenly it was all sour and gross. Shows how expectations shape our senses.
If we expect something to be good, our brains try to confirm that expectation.
Even if the reality is different, it's like those optical illusions where our brains fill in the gaps.
Heard those magic eye posters.
Yeah.
Gotta let your brain do the work to see the hidden image.
And it's not just taste. Remember that coffee experiment? Same coffee, served from different containers, one plain, one fancy.
And people rated the fancy one as tasting better.
Yep. Just the perception of something being special changes our experience.
Fascinating, isn't it?
Totally. And it has huge implications for marketing, branding, all that. Fancy labels, sleek designs.
Creating an expectation of quality, something worth paying extra for.
Right. But it also raises ethical questions. Are we being manipulated? Are we paying more for stuff that's not actually better just because of the image?
It's a valid question. We like to think we're rational, but we're constantly bombarded with messages designed to tap into our emotions.
It's a slippery slope for sure.
Yeah, it is a slippery slope.
Speaking of slippery slopes, this whole expectations thing got me thinking about honesty, you know?
Like, where do our expectations of ourselves and others fit in?
Yeah, exactly. Like, are we all capable of being dishonest? Even if it's just little stuff. I mean, who hasn't borrowed a pen from work or fudged their taxes a bit, right?
Well, it's funny you mention that because researchers actually did a study on this. They gave students a chance to cheat on a test,
Ooh, juicy. How they do it.
multiple choice test, and they gave them the answer key on a separate sheet.
Sneaky. So they could change their answers without getting caught.
Yep. They even had different conditions, like some could shred the evidence.
Yeah.
Perfect crime setup.
So did everyone become a criminal mastermind?
Not quite. Most did cheat, but only by a little.
So, like, morally flexible.
Seems like it. And the thing is, the risk of getting caught didn't change much.
Really? So even when they could have gotten away with a perfect score, they still only cheated a bit.
That's what they found.
Interesting. So something was holding them back, even if it wasn't fear of punishment, like an internal limit on how dishonest they were willing to be.
Yeah, it seems so.
This makes me think about Adam Smith, you know. Didn't he say something about honesty being the best policy, at least in business?
Yeah, he argued that honesty often serves our self-interest, builds trust, maintains a good reputation.
So it's like being dishonest might give you a quick win, but in the long run,
It can damage your relationships, your career.
makes sense. But there's also the idea that honesty is like a moral virtue, right? Something we learn as we grow up.
Right. Freud called it the superego, that inner voice that makes us feel good when we do the right thing, guilty when we don't.
So like a built-in honesty monitor, even when no one's watching.
Exactly.
But it seems this monitor is more sensitive to big stuff than small stuff, right? Like robbing a bank versus swiping a stapler.
That's right. For small acts of dishonesty, we often don't even think about it morally.
We just tell ourselves it's no big deal. Everyone does it. So are you saying we're all secret rule benders?
To some degree, perhaps. But the interesting thing is, there might be ways to trigger that moral compass, even for those little things.
Oh, really? Like what?
Well, there was this study where they had students recall the 10 Commandments before a test.
The Ten Commandments. Interesting choice. And what happened?
The ones who thought about the commandments didn't cheat at all.
Wow. Seriously. Just thinking about those moral rules made a difference.
It seems so. Like even subtle reminders of ethical principles can influence us.
Maybe we should all carry around little Ten Commandment cards.
Maybe not the commandments specifically, but the idea is there. Even something like signing a code of ethics before starting a job.
Right, a little nudge in the right
Well,
direction.
exactly.
But this whole thing about expectations and honesty, it brings up a big question for me.
What's that?
If our expectations are so powerful, shaping how we see things, how we decide things, even how our bodies react, where does free will fit in? Do we really have any control, or are we just running on autopilot?
That's a question philosophers have been debating for ages.
Yeah, no easy answers there.
No, but I do think understanding those forces that shape our behavior, those biases, those expectations, it gives us more agency.
Like, it helps us make more conscious choices.
Exactly. Knowledge is power, as they say. The more we know about how our minds work, the better we can challenge our assumptions, make better decisions.
I like that. It's not about denying the power of expectations, but using that knowledge to our advantage.
Right. We're not just passive puppets. We can actively shape our reality.
And that brings us back to one of the most fascinating things we've talked about, the power of belief, especially when it comes to health.
The mind-body connection is incredibly powerful.
We've talked about the placebo effect, but there are also those amazing stories of people recovering from illnesses that doctors couldn't explain, like spontaneous remission.
Yeah, the human body is full of mysteries.
Like that study where they gave people sham surgery for knee pain, and it worked just as well as the real surgery. It's crazy.
It is pretty wild. It suggests that what we believe, what we expect, can impact our physical health in profound ways.
So does that mean we can all just think our way to good health? Ditch the doctors and just meditate on positive affirmations?
I wouldn't go that far, but it does highlight that we need to consider the whole person, not just their physical symptoms, their mental and emotional well-being too.
Like that saying, laughter is the best medicine.
There might be something to that. And it's not just about positive thinking either. Negative expectations can have a powerful effect too.
You mean like, if you believe you're going to get sick, you're more likely to actually get sick?
Exactly. It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. Our brains look for evidence to confirm our beliefs, even if it means ignoring other evidence.
So if we're constantly bombarded with doom and gloom, our brains might start to believe it's true, even if it's not.
It's a possibility. That's why it's so important to be mindful of the information we're taking in and to challenge those negative expectations.
We need to be skeptical, question what we hear and see, especially now when there's so much information out there, a lot of it designed to manipulate us.
It's like we need to develop a mental immune system, to filter out all the negativity.
Love that analogy. And this brings us back to placebos, right? If our beliefs are so powerful, maybe we should be harnessing them more intentionally.
Maybe instead of just relying on pills, we could explore other ways to tap into the placebo effect.
Like,
Things like mindfulness, meditation, spending time in nature. They've all been shown to have positive effects.
and those things don't come with side effects.
Exactly. But there's also the ethical question of how to use placebos in medicine.
Right, like, is it okay for a doctor to prescribe a sugar pill if they know it might make the patient feel better?
It's tricky. Some say any deception is wrong, even if the intention is good.
But what if it helps? Is it still wrong then?
It's a debate with no easy answers, a real moral gray area. It shows we need more research, more open discussion about this.
Because if we can figure out how to use the power of belief safely and ethically, it could change everything about healthcare.
Absolutely.
But it also makes me think about all those people using alternative therapies that might be working because of the placebo effect.
Acupuncture, homeopathy, things like that.
Yeah, and those can be expensive even though there's not much scientific proof they work.
It reminds us to be critical thinkers. Question everything, whether it's conventional medicine or alternative therapies. Do your research, talk to your doctor. Ultimately, your health is your responsibility.
So don't believe everything you read online.
Exactly. Be informed, be skeptical, and take charge of your own well-being.
Now, speaking of being skeptical, let's talk about another study you sent.
Which one?
The one about framing effects. How the way information is presented can change how we see it.
Oh yeah, like the classic glass half full versus half empty.
Same amount of liquid, different feeling.
Exactly. And this framing happens everywhere.
Yeah.
Financial decisions, judging political candidates.
There was that study about a disease outbreak, right? Two options, same outcome, but one was framed in terms of lives saved, the other lives lost.
And people overwhelmingly chose the lives saved option.
Even though it was the same as the other, just changing the words changed their minds.
It's wild how powerful language can be.
Totally. So, how do we avoid being tricked by this framing stuff?
Awareness is key. Once you know how framing works, you can see through the manipulation.
So, like, always ask yourself, who's saying this? What's their agenda?
Exactly. And what information are they emphasizing or leaving out? Are there other perspectives to consider?
Gotta be skeptical. Look for multiple sources of information.
And be aware of our own biases, too.
Yeah.
We all have preconceived notions that can distort how we see things.
Right. So be open to other viewpoints, challenge your own assumptions, be willing to change your mind.
It's all about intellectual humility. Knowing we don't have all the answers. Being willing to learn.
Which brings us back to that big question we were talking about earlier. How do we know it's real?
If our perceptions are so easily swayed, how can we be sure we're seeing things objectively?
Yeah, it's a tough one.
It is. There's no easy answer. But I think understanding the limits of our minds helps us be more discerning, more critical.
So acknowledging that our view is always filtered through our own lens.
Right. There's no such thing as perfect objectivity. It's a journey, not a destination.
And that journey means constantly questioning, challenging ourselves, seeking out new information.
Exactly. Embracing the uncertainty, the complexity.
Yeah.
Knowing that our understanding is always evolving.
That's a great point. And maybe that's the biggest takeaway from this whole thing about expectations.
What do you mean?
Our minds are powerful, but they can be tricked. We're all susceptible to biases, to illusions. So seeking knowledge, seeking understanding, it takes effort. We can't just coast.
That's true. It's a constant process of self-reflection, of checking ourselves.
So as we keep going with this, let's keep that in mind. Be curious, but also be cautious. Be open to new ideas, but also be discerning.
I like that. Open-minded skepticism.
And never stop questioning the world around us and the assumptions we hold.
Because the more we understand our own minds, the better we can navigate life.
And create a more fulfilling experience for ourselves and everyone around us.
I agree.
And speaking of how our expectations can affect our bodies, remember those studies about stress, how it impacts our health.
Oh yeah, the mind-body connection is fascinating.
We talk about stress like it's just in our heads, but it can really mess with our bodies, right?
Absolutely. Our bodies react to stress in ways that were vital for survival way back when. Fight or flight response.
Heart racing, muscles tense, all that.
Yeah, it's meant to deal with immediate danger. But these days, so many of us are dealing with chronic stress.
Like always on edge.
Exactly. And that takes a toll.
Yeah.
High blood pressure, heart problems, digestive issues, sleep problems, weakened immune system.
It's like our bodies are always in emergency mode, even when there's no emergency.
Right. And the interesting thing is, how we think about stress can actually change how our bodies react.
Remember that study where they put people in stressful situations, like public speaking? But before that, they told some people that stress is harmful and others that it can be beneficial.
Oh, yeah. The results were pretty striking.
The ones who thought stress was harmful, their bodies reacted badly. Blood vessels constricted, blood pressure went up, they felt more anxious. But the ones who believed stress could be good,
They had a healthier response. Blood vessels dilated, they felt calmer, more confident.
just by changing their beliefs about stress, they changed how their bodies reacted. It's like the placebo effect, but in reverse.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
They were expecting a negative outcome, and their bodies followed suit.
It shows how powerful our thoughts are. And it makes me think we need to focus on developing a more positive mindset, even when things are tough.
It's not about pretending stress doesn't exist, but about how we manage it.
Like that saying, what you resist persists.
Exactly. If we're always focused on the negative, expecting the worst, we're more likely to experience negative things. But if we can reframe things, see challenges as opportunities,
Then we can actually reduce the negative impact.
it's about choosing to see the good, even when it's hard, and finding healthy ways to cope with stress.
Exercise, mindfulness, connecting with people, doing things we enjoy, all of that helps build resilience.
Absolutely. So it's not about ignoring stress, but managing it and understanding that our perception of it plays a big role.
This whole mind-body thing is really fascinating. Are there any other surprising ways that our beliefs can impact our health?
There are actually quite a few. For example, people who have a strong sense of purpose in life tend to live longer and healthier lives.
Really? Like, having a reason to get up in the morning makes a difference.
It seems so. And people who have a positive outlook on aging are less likely to experience cognitive decline.
So, our beliefs about ourselves, about our place in the world, can actually shape our physical reality.
It seems that way, like our minds are creating a blueprint for our bodies to follow.
That's wild. So, if our beliefs are that powerful, can we use them intentionally to improve our health?
That's what researchers are trying to figure out. There's this field called psychoneuroimmunology, which looks at the connections between our thoughts, emotions, and immune system.
Wow, that's a mouthful.
It is, but the research is fascinating. There's more and more evidence that our mental state affects our ability to fight off disease.
Like being happy helps us stay healthy.
In a way, yes. For example, people who practice mindfulness meditation have higher levels of antibodies, which fight off infections. And those who are kind to others have lower levels of inflammation, which is linked to chronic disease.
So, being positive and doing good things actually boosts our immune system.
It seems so. It's like we're giving our bodies an extra layer of protection by cultivating a positive mental and emotional state.
This changes how we think about healthcare. Maybe it's not just about treating symptoms, but also addressing the mental and emotional stuff that contributes to illness.
It's about a holistic approach, seeing the connection between our physical, mental, and emotional well-being.
So, we're back to the placebo effect again. If believing in something can create real changes in our bodies, maybe we can use that power more intentionally to promote healing.
Exactly. It's not about replacing conventional medicine, but recognizing that our minds play a huge role in our health.
And that having positive beliefs and expectations can help our bodies thrive.
Right. It's about empowering people to be active participants in their own health, not just passive patients.
I love that. So, to sum it all up,
What have we learned today?
our expectations are incredibly powerful. They affect how we see things, how we make decisions, how we act, how healthy we are, even how well we perform. They can hold us back, or they can help us achieve amazing things.
And the key is awareness.
Right. By understanding how our expectations work, we can make more conscious choices and create a better life.
Beautifully said.
So, to everyone listening, pay attention to how your beliefs and perceptions are shaping your life. Challenge your assumptions, be open to new possibilities, and most importantly, believe in yourself and your ability to create the life you want.
Because the power is within you.
You got that right. Now, let's move on to another fascinating area of this whole expectations thing. Remember that study about football fans and how they saw that game-winning pass?
Oh yeah, two friends watching the same play, but one swears it was inbounds, the other is adamant it was out.
It shows how much our pre-existing beliefs, our allegiances, can color our perceptions, even when we think we're being objective.
It's like those political debates where both sides have the same facts, but they interpret them completely differently.
Exactly. And this goes way beyond sports and politics. Think about conflicts between countries, religious groups, even couples arguing. We tend to see the world through the lens of our own beliefs and experiences.
Which makes it really hard to find common ground.
So are you saying there's no such thing as objective truth? That it's all just a matter of perspective?
Not necessarily, but it does mean we need to be aware of our own biases and how they might be distorting things.
So how do we do that? How do we break free from our own subjective bubbles?
Well, one way is to try to see things from the other person's point of view.
Easier said than done, right? Especially in the heat of an argument.
It is. But even just acknowledging that the other person might have a valid perspective, even if you don't agree with it, can be a huge step.
Like walk a mile in their shoes.
Exactly. And sometimes it helps to have a neutral third party, someone who can help us see things more objectively.
Like a referee in a game or a therapist for a couple.
Right. Someone who can help us find a compromise.
So we need to become more aware of our own blind spots and maybe even develop a healthy skepticism towards our own beliefs.
A little bit of doubt can be a good thing.
Totally. But this whole conversation about perception and expectations, it makes me wonder about those cases where people seem to defy logic, defy expectations, like those stories of spontaneous remission from illnesses that doctors can't explain.
The human body is truly amazing. There's so much we still don't understand.
Like that study where they gave people sham surgery for knee pain and it worked just as well as the real deal. It's hard to wrap your head around that.
It is. But it suggests that our beliefs and expectations can affect us on a very deep level.
So does that mean we can all just think our way to good health? Should we ditch our doctors and just start chanting positive affirmations?
I wouldn't recommend that. But it does show how important it is to look at the whole person, not just their physical symptoms.
Their mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being, too. It's
Yeah.
all connected.
Exactly. And it's not just about positive thinking. Sometimes negative expectations can be just as powerful.
You mean like if you believe you're going to get sick, you're more likely to actually get sick?
Yes, our brains are always looking for evidence to confirm what we already believe.
So we need to be careful about the information we're taking in and challenge those negative thoughts.
Absolutely. Cultivate a healthy skepticism, do your research, and be mindful of the messages you're exposing yourself to.
Because sometimes our own minds can be our worst enemies or our best allies.
That's a great way to put it. It all depends on how we choose to use that power.
So as we continue this deep dive, let's keep all of this in mind. The power of expectations, the importance of awareness, the need for critical thinking. It's a lot to digest.
It is, but it's a fascinating journey. And I think it's essential for anyone who wants to understand themselves better and to live a more fulfilling life.
You know, this whole discussion has really gotten me thinking about something else.
Oh, what's that? What's that?
It's like if our beliefs and expectations can have such a huge impact on things, what about those people who seem to defy the odds? Those incredible stories of, spontaneous remission where someone recovers from a serious illness and doctors can't explain it.
Ah, the mysteries of the human body, right?
Yeah.
We still have so much to learn about how the mind and body interact.
It's like we've talked about the placebo effect, but then there are these cases where people get better against all odds. Like, what's going on there?
It's fascinating, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It really challenges our understanding of how healing works. And it suggests that our beliefs and expectations might play an even bigger role than we realize.
Yeah, it's like our minds are capable of some pretty amazing things, maybe even things we don't fully grasp yet.
Right. And maybe those stories of spontaneous remission are pointing to a potential that we haven't tapped into fully.
It makes you wonder what we might be capable of if we could harness that power more intentionally.
Exactly. If simply believing in a treatment can trigger real physiological changes, imagine what we could achieve if we could consciously direct that belief towards healing and well-being.
It's like we're just scratching the surface of what's possible.
I think you're right. And it's not just about physical healing either. This applies to all aspects of our lives. If we can learn to consciously shape our beliefs and expectations, we can create more positive experiences in every area.
So it's about taking control of our thoughts, recognizing that they have real power to shape our reality.
Exactly. And it's about cultivating a mindset of possibility, believing that we can achieve great things even when the odds seem stacked against us.
Because ultimately, our beliefs create our reality.
They do. And when we embrace that power, we unlock a world of potential.
I love that. It's like we're not just victims of circumstance, we're active creators of our own lives.
Precisely. And the more we understand about how our minds work, the more effectively we can shape that creation process.
This has been an incredible deep dive. We've covered so much ground, from the hot-cold empathy gap to the power of ownership, the trap of open doors, the placebo effect, the ethics of honesty, and the incredible influence of our beliefs and expectations.
It really has been a fascinating exploration.
And the biggest takeaway for me is that we have way more power than we realize. The power to shape our perceptions, our decisions, our behaviors, our health, and even our reality.
And that power lies in understanding how our minds work and in choosing to use that knowledge to create a more fulfilling and meaningful life.
So to all our listeners out there, keep questioning, keep exploring, and keep believing in the power of your own mind. You are capable of amazing things. Until next time, keep those expectations high and never stop diving deep.